All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Who are you farming for? Where's your money going? Why are we doing this? Oh, wait. I know. Because we need to grow cheap food to be a safety net for a growing population, and to feed a nation, you need cheap food. Bull crap. Bull crap. Follow the money. Who are you really farming for? Aren't you trying to farm for yourself? This is the whole point of my channel, is make farming great again, bring the money back to the farm, and stop pissing it away on all these other places. So we have 247 fields. We have the average number from 247 fields in this north and eastern part of Minnesota. We have direct crop expenses. We're on corn for cash rent is the numbers that we're pulling. We have direct expenses, your seed, fertilizer, land rent, chemicals and crop insurance, all that kind of stuff. Fuels, repairs, custom hire, it's all figured in here. Operating interest, stuff like that. And then we have overhead expenses, hired labor, machinery leases, building leases, the depreciation, the income of depreciation on that stuff. Dues, professional fees, insurances, utilities, that kind of stuff, you know, to operate the overall farm. And so before we have any government payments, before we take a labor and management fee to pay ourselves, God forbid we pull our own salary from our small business for our family, before that stuff, so just after direct and overhead expenses, out of 247 fields, the farm averaged $11.58 profit. Now there is a high 20%. There was 50 fields that made it into the high 20 that they had $130 per acre. So there are some extremes, but the 247, there's 5 times more farmers there at the $11 than there are at the $129. I feel that most of us are more in the $11 per acre group. I don't know. But where did the money go? So the farm's at $11 between seed and chemical, because them are basically the same companies. You're at almost $100. You had 87 on seed, 26 on chemical. You're almost 10 times as much money went to the seed and chemical guy as your farm did. Fertilizer, $118. Again, 10 times more money went to the fertilizer guy than came back to the farm as net profit. To me, that seems really weird, and that's the whole point, or that's one great example of the fertilizer of soil health farming. Right now, I'm surrounded by an air that is 75% nitrogen. Of that $118, we're spending, how much of that is in a nitrogen to grow corn expense? And when you figure that 40 to 70% of applied nitrogen never makes it to that year's crop, so if you're putting down $60 to $70 an acre on nitrogen, almost half of that is just being lost. What sense does that make? Why are you spending $60 an acre on a product that is surrounding me? 70% of this is nitrogen. Legumes grow it for free for me, and they store it in the ground free for me, and I don't need to spend another $10 an acre on inhibitors for it. I just need a little bit of nitrogen from the co-op to get the crop up and running, so next year as that legumes and the soil break down and release the N, I've got something up and running, because it all doesn't just happen. But what if I could take that 118 and realistically cut it in half? What if by rotating crops a little bit different, God forbid we go a little bit different here, what if I change rotation instead of corn bean, because let's jump ahead a little bit here. Corn bean, by the time we pull a salary ourselves and then bring in our welfare checks from the government, we're at minus 25 an acre. Minus 25 an acre because I wanted to take a salary from my business hello, I wanted to pay myself $40 an acre on 700 acres. That's $28,000 a year. That's not a good wage. That's not a good wage. I could walk down to the cities next spring and get 70 grand a year carrying concrete again. Shit. Probably the dumbest thing I ever did was stop going to the cities. There's days I regret it. But yeah, so 118 for fertilizer. Where's fuel? Fuel oil, $44 an acre on fuel. I think this year, last year, the last couple years, we've been averaging around $12 on fuel for the year fee. And so that's considering we have a lot of hay ground and cereal ground, where it's not just corn and beans, where you're doing quarter per gallon acre passes with a wide sprayer and a wide planter, and you float a couple times and you're done for the year until combining. You're on hay ground that 4 times a year it gets cut, raked, and baled, and then all the bales moved. 4 times a year on them acres, and we're still trying to be under 4 gallons per acre for the year. That's an impressive number, and I'm glad we're there. $40 on interest. $40 on interest so we can buy another tillage tractor and more tillage equipment, because the last stuff wore out, and we're going to buy more acres, and so then we need to upgrade more equipment again, and blah, 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 blah. And just that never-ending toilet bowl of debt. $40, 4 times more money goes to your banker than to your farm. This is ridiculous, guys. But until we take a draw, I mean, minus 25 versus a positive 40, your banker is really happy that you're doing what you're doing. So is the seed and chemical companies. Some of these numbers are just crazy. If we go over to soybean on cash rent, after labor and management, we had a $9.87 profit. So if you're a 50-50 farm in this territory, $10 plus $25 is $35. So you're about $17 in the hole on average if you take a salary. That's great. That's really optimistic. I know there was a hay and alfalfa. So this is the one I like. So when all my neighbors tell me how no-till don't work here, that's great, because I'm not no-till, I'm soil health. So in my area, and if there's any dealers that are listening, maybe this is the time you'd want to really listen and start inventorying hay equipment, because net return over labor and management out of 102 fields on hay, alfalfa, cash rent, after labor management, all direct fees, overhead, was 288 on the poor guys, and on the high 20%, there was 20 fields that did $633 profit. Right there. Zoom in, pause. It seems to me I'd rather, the 288 seems to make a whole lot more sense than minus 25. But yet, every magazine you pick up, every article we read, all the government payments are based around corn and beans. Corn is king. And so that's a really great number. That really makes me feel happy that I'm really expanding corn acres. Wheat on cash ground, after everything, labor management, is still a $10 profit. I got my $40 management fee and labor on wheat and still made $10 for the farm. That ain't a bad crop to grow. Not a bad crop to grow. And so, yeah, guys, I would really question who are we farming for? Who is the modern American farmer really farming for? It seems that we're just being mined every time the farmer gets a nickel. Look at last year. Look at 2019 with the whole farm crisis, 2019 for farm suicides and farm income and stuff. How many advertisements did we see from companies for, oh, you know, if you join our program, we'll help make you more money on your farm. You know, that kind of BS. All them infomercials and John Cryer on our YouTube commercials talking to us livestock managers. I don't know when he quit 2.5 Men and started getting into cattle management, but you've seen that ad. I find that ad real funny. Because he even sounds like him. But yeah, this is why I'm doing this. And I hope it can work, because this isn't working. The modern template for a modern American farmer is not working. It is not sustainable. The world does not care whether farmers make it or not, because if you go under the template right now of neighbor just stepping on neighbor, they'll have your land rented before you're even buried in the ground. And the co-op, oh, sad to see you go, John, but hey, Bob, glad you picked up John's acres. Here you go. Here's your new fertilizer bill. It really is eye-opening when you start following your own money to see who you're really farming for. It seems to me I'm farming to support the fertilizer guy and the seed guy and the bank. And the funny thing is they all, well, none of them drive a better truck. Let's be honest. But they all have a better house and a bigger house and fancier stuff, and they probably got more money in their checkbook. This is really making me think, like, why don't I go back to the cities and carry concrete for 70 grand a year? I'd probably making more at the last few years, but I was making a lot more. I really sometimes question what the heck was I thinking. But guys, I'm just going to leave it right there. Thank you very much for watching.